Hey guys, it's Miss Momo and I'm back with another video. Hey guys, I just want to point out a couple of things that you may notice. First thing, I'm wearing my NASA shirt. If you don't already know, Stephen Hawking passed away this week at the age of, I believe he was 86 years old. And as a science teacher, Stephen Hawking's contribution to what we know about black holes is almost everything. No, it's not everything, but he has significantly contributed to what we know about outer space and our spatial system. So I thought it was just fitting for me to wear the NASA shirt, and I did wear a couple of NASA or science related shirts this week after I found out he passed, and my class and I had a discussion about who he was, why he was so famous, and how his contribution has contributed to what we learned in the classroom. So today I'm going to honor him again, and I'm going to wear this shirt during this video. And another thing you may have noticed if you watch my other videos is my hair is different yet again. I got my hair braided yesterday. It took 6 hours to get it done, but like I've said in my previous videos, I am training for a half marathon and I have 7 weeks of training left to go, and it's just so much easier with my hair braided. My hair sweats a lot. I run 15-20 miles per week, and it's just easier when I can take this hair, put it into a ponytail and run, instead of washing and conditioning my hair every time I run. And right now I am running 4, sometimes if I'm lucky and I feel like it, 5 days a week. Okay, moving on to our topic for today. So this time of year, I don't know about you, but I always have what I call gaps in my curriculum, meaning either the curriculum pacing is off and my students finish before the new curriculum is available to us, or my students are just at a different place, meaning the curriculum is not fitting their needs, they're not fitting their attitudes or their moods, and so I can't just go through the curriculum. I can't just teach it for the sake of teaching it, and sometimes I have to stop where I am and I'm going to have to fill in what I call gaps. So I'm going to give you 3 tips that I always go back to when I have these gap periods, and they have been really successful for me in the past, and I'm hoping that you could use some of these tips in your classroom. Tip number 1, skills practice. For example, my curriculum ended almost 2 weeks ago. So the way it works in our district is we know what the unit titles are, but we have people in district office that are actually putting the curriculum together. And when you don't have a curriculum that's already established from the beginning of year to the end of the year, you come up with these issues. So the curriculum should have been ready. The next unit should have been ready almost 2 weeks ago. But of course, it's not ready. So that leaves classroom teachers filling in the blank or filling in the gaps until the district people have the next unit ready. So luckily for me, I've been teaching for a while. I'm an OG in this game. I have, oh, that's so funny. I'm an OG in this game. I have tricks and tips that I can use to fill in the gaps. But like my partner teacher, and I know other teachers who have not been teaching so long, and they don't have a lot of tips and tricks. And they're like, oh my God, what do? I don't know how to fill in 2 weeks, and I looked for next week and it's still not available, so it'll be another week. So what do I do for 3 weeks? Well, no fret. Miss Momo is here to help you. So tip number 1, whenever I have a significant portion of my unit or a curriculum gaps. So for example, last week I knew the curriculum wasn't available, so I started to think to myself, how can I switch this up a bit? So I decided to look back at my kids' assessments, and I take notes about my teaching as I go through the unit. And I noticed that my kids were missing a little of the foundational skills that they needed to be a little more successful. Not saying that they didn't have the skills, but you know, sometimes when you're going through the curriculum at a certain pace, you can't really focus on certain things like you want to. So this was a perfect time for me to go back, identify those skills, and then we did skills practice. And one of the issues that my kids were having is problem solving. There's a process to problem solving, and my kids, they went one or two ways generally. Number one, if they came across a problem that they didn't know the answer to, they just stopped. They didn't try to figure out a way to address the problem. They didn't even try to Google to see if they can get suggestions of how to solve the problem. So a lot of them just stopped. Here's a problem, I don't know how to address it, and that was it. They gave up. Or I have kids on the other end of the spectrum, and these are usually my advanced kids. They want to problem solve, but they're all over the map. So I know in this generation, you have this, I call it the Steve Jobs generation. They want you to think out the box. They want you to think big. They want you to be innovative and creative. But sometimes it's got to make sense. So for my AP kids, they will come up with the craziest ideas, and they never had any evidence to try to back up the idea. So if you want to think outside the box, that's fine. But in science, you have to learn to justify it. And usually we justify it with some type of evidence. So I spent this week going over skills, the skills problem solving. So I'm going to insert a couple of short video clips that I took during the week. And
If you want, I can explain it.
go ahead. These are just simple activities that I gave the kids. On the surface, I mean, they may seem a bit elementary or middle school, but on the bigger realm, bigger picture, we spent time going through the process of how to solve a problem. So I got what I needed out of the kids. The kids learned the process of problem solving, and the kids got what they wanted because they were able to do activities that they thought were absolutely fun and engaging, hands-on. So they loved it. So the second strategy that I always seem to go back to that has worked for me in the past is doing a STEAM project with the kids. If you don't know, STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, art, and math. So with a STEAM project, what I do is I give the kids a scenario, and based on the scenario, the kids have to come up with a solution. And usually the solution is creative. So the kids have to create a model of the solution, and then they have to explain why this would solve the problem that I gave them. And in this case, I'm going to have the kids make a prototype of their solution. So this is something I would do if I have at least 2 weeks of gap time. So in this case, I looked for next week and the curriculum is still not available. I kind of came up and got them started a little bit last week, and now that I know I have at least another week, I believe I'm gonna go full steam with this STEAM project with the kids. So the kids came up with an idea. They're starting to think of how they can create a prototype. Of course, they're thinking wild parts, they're thinking wild ideas, and you know, realistically, I'm just going to have to narrow it down a little bit and probably get them to use comparable materials that I can go to maybe Lowe's or another store to purchase. But I'm going to have a STEAM fair, and I've already talked to the art teacher to see if the art teacher have any pieces that she would like to donate to the project. But what I like about STEAM projects is because of the variety of ideas that kids will come up with, you're getting your science, you're definitely getting your technology, especially if your kids are 21st century kids. They're going to incorporate some technology piece into it. There's always usually a math component, and if I'm noticing that one of the STEAM areas are lacking, then I usually go through, ask different questions to make sure that they're somehow are incorporating every part of STEAM into their project. Our district is really big and pushing towards deeper learning, and STEAM projects, if they are done correctly, are fantastic for getting kids to think and to really learn very deeply. And another project that I go to under the STEAM, I guess, if I have a shorter period of time, instead of maybe 2 to 3 weeks, I would do a Genius Hour. And usually Genius Hours are really long-term projects. They could be 3 months or 4 months, but I've never done a Genius Hour that was longer than a month. And when I say a month, I would take maybe one day out of a week. I would take maybe a Friday or every Monday for a month. We would do Genius Hour. And I do that for 2 reasons. My kids get bored no matter how interested they are in creating things. I just know my kids, a Genius Hour longer than once a week for a month is just too much. I've also done Genius Hour for a week and a half. So every day they came in, they had different objectives for the Genius Hour. So my number 2 is, if you have a little more significant time in your curriculum for your gap, you could always do a STEAM project. That can be a deeper learning project, or that can be a Genius Hour project. And lastly, my number 3 that has always worked well with me, especially in the spring and closer to the end of the school year, when we have a gap, I always go back to community service. There's always some trash that has to be picked up. There's always some painting that has to be done on the athletic field. So if I have just a few days of gap projects, I always go back to community service. I am the coordinator for community service in my school, so I always have a bag of tricks. If I have to, I always have organizations that I partner with, and then my kids will do a fundraiser. It does not take long for my kids to get together and create some kind of way to collect money. My kids love making posters. They love making signs. The kids, they will come up with ideas like selling candy. And so they tell me what they want. I'll go to the store, I'll purchase the goods, I'll purchase the posters and all that. The kids will put it together, and then we'll spend maybe a week or just a few days in the cafeteria, and they'll sell something. And the profits may not be a lot. I think the last time we did it, we made $100 and something. I mean, you're not talking about something extremely significant, especially if you are doing it just as a field project. So you may not be able to put a lot of time into it on the back end, but that $100 they gave to the March of Dimes, or they gave to Crusade for Kids. So it's definitely a worthwhile project. It's definitely something that would make them better citizens. It's definitely something that they will enjoy short term. So there you have it. Those are my 3 suggestions or tips for any teacher that has a little gap period in their curriculum. So let me recap. You have your skills practice, you have your STEAM project / Genius Hour, and 3, you have your community service. So if you have any questions about what to do when you have a little time in your curriculum, please leave a comment down below. If you have anything to add, please leave a comment down below. As always, I enjoy making videos for you. If you have any suggestions, let me know. Until next time, see you later. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button. And do not forget to be notified and click that bell so you know every time I upload a video.